Okay, we should be recording.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Aaron. Good morning. It's June, halfway through the year. It's crazy to think that's the way it is, but it is. So we have a couple of things to vote on, so we'll do them fairly quickly, I think, just to make sure that everyone can vote. The first is to approve the minutes from our May 13th meeting. So can we take a vote to approve those minutes, please?
Approve. Oh, do we?
Okay,
Make a
Karen?
motion to approve them.
Yes.
A
So
second.
David? Yes.
Second. Yep.
Karen?
Yes, I heard the
Yes.
motion from David, and Karen, did you second it?
I did.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's do a roll call.
Okay.
Karen Flannery. Oh no, she's frozen. Deb Thompson,
Yes.
David Gladstone,
Yes.
Tracy Chin,
Yes.
Ann Myers,
Yes.
Chris Muddy,
Yes.
and Karen, do we have you back yet?
Yes.
Perfect. Oh, and Ailish?
Am I back? Because I just lost you guys too. I'm back.
Yes.
Yes, please. Yes.
Perfect. All right. So that takes care of the minutes.
Okay, we can move up to staff. Do you want to move on to staff updates, or would you rather do the parking study subcommittee?
Let's skip the staff updates and go straight to the membership roster for approval, just since, like, again, since we have a quorum now, I don't want to lose this again. So this is me. I'll start. So if you all recall, at our May SBDC meeting, we asked for approval and received it. Thank you again for an SBDC subcommittee on these parking studies. This would serve kind of in an advisory / outreach role. They will be working with our staff internally on these two parking studies, and they would also help provide a lot of valuable insight and help get the word out with the and work with the consultants on these parking studies for Washington Square and Brookline Village. So, with that being said, I'm going to share my screen, and we were able to find 7 members. Can everybody see my screen okay? Up now. I'll make it bigger. Okay.
Oh,
So
it's good.
okay, great. So Ilish has agreed to serve as the chair, and obviously she's the owner of Public House in Washington Square. Other Washington Square reps that we were able to find is Steve Nagel with Livite, Nick Patel with Gimbal, Alexander Goresh with the Salon, Brookline Village, Karen Flannery with Literally Local, Sue Healy with HT Studio, and Sarah Petrus with Cadeau. So if we get these approved today, then we will start immediately working with them. And the first thing on the list is to make sure that we have the goals set up right and to start getting out a survey that we will have open through the next several months. Ailish, if you wanted to hear a motion to approve this
Sure.
roster as presented, then we can get that started.
Let
Okay.
me make the motion to approve.
Okay, I second that then.
Okay, so let me stop sharing.
Is that okay to do it that way, Aaron? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me call the roll. All right, so Karen,
Approve.
David Gladstone,
Can I ask a question?
No, that.
Approve.
we've already, yeah, sure.
Approve.
David, did you ask a question?
No, I'm approving. I'm taking a vote to approve. Go ahead.
Okay. Tracy Chin,
Sorry. Can you say that again?
well, I was asking if you approve of the roster as presented.
Yes.
Deb Thompson,
Goodness.
I think we're having serious difficulties technologically.
I know.
Yeah, no one's sharing.
Yeah.
Deb Thompson, we'll come back. Ann Myers,
Yes.
Chris Muddy,
Yes.
and Ailish Gilligan.
Yes.
And again, Deb, if you're with us. Well, we have the majority anyways, so we'll have her abstain for right now. That still gets approved, so thank you all for that. And I apologize for these technical difficulties. I hope that's not my internet that's going in and out. Okay, if we want, Ailish, we can go back to the Center Street Lot Study update.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead with that then. Is that
Um,
Zach? Zach
Yes,
gonna- Okay.
Zach has got an update for us and some exciting things this summer. Zach, you're muted in case you didn't. Yep.
Yeah, let me just pull this up here. Oh, can you make me close, please, Aaron?
I just did it for you.
Thank you. What is it saying? Like, can you see my cursor with this bold corner
Yep.
center lots? Okay. So prepared a quick slideshow for you folks today just to kind of catch everyone up on some of the progress on the Center Street Lots exploratory study. Thank you so much for your time this morning and for your continued engagement on this. And yeah, I have some exciting updates for you. The committee has gotten started. Lots to cover, so I'm just going to take us through, and this is really just some kind of highlights. So again, we're talking about the Center Street lots, the large parking lot behind the Coolidge Corner Theater, as well as the one across the street where the farmers market is held, as well as the commercial permit program and other things. Combined, this is about 2.5 acres and about 200 parking spaces currently. Quick schedule of the project. We're kind of getting existing conditions, doing some project kickoff work, getting into the spring, doing a lot of engagement and survey work. That will be continuing, but doing a lot of that work in the spring, some of which I'll be able to present to you today. This summer, we're doing some tactical urbanism, which I'll get into a little bit more later in the presentation. There'll be some kind of conceptual programmatic work and design happening in later summer, getting into the fall. And then we're kind of in the fall and winter, but staff, the committee and stakeholders to kind of refine these options that we're going to come up with the consultants and hopefully be able to select a kind of preferred alternative that the community is really coming together around. So at the very start of their work, the committee was able to approve these guiding principles. And by the way, we have Anne here who is on the Center Street Lots committee, so please feel free to jump in anytime. There are 5 of these guiding principles. Oh, I feel like this came in very blurry, but in no specific order, but the first of which is to ensure continued access for business owners and lot users, foster inclusive community engagement, commit to environmental sustainability, align with the Brookline Comprehensive Plan and other town planning efforts, and to adopt a pragmatic fiscal approach. All of this, by the way, is on centerstreetlots.com for more information. The community survey went out and was out for about 6 weeks. We posted A-frames in the Center Street Lots, flyers around town. These advertisements went up on the SUFAs around Coolidge Corner. We took advantage of the websites we have, both the town site, centerstreetlots.com, email blast, social media channels. I hope many of you were able to take the survey, and we thank you for helping to reach some of your customers and your clients and others. We had 783 responses in total. I won't get into some of the demographic data. There are over 100 slides of survey analysis from our consultants that are really rich with data and are available on both the town site and at centerstreetlots.com. I've just plucked out a few like real highlights for you folks to show to you all today, but lots more to dig through if you are if you're curious. So we do feel that the survey was broadly successful in capturing an array of perspectives, both demographically and in terms of what folks are doing in Coolidge Corner. As Anne alluded to, we would like to continue engaging, I mean, everyone, but younger people in particular were a bit underrepresented in the survey compared to others. People voiced that this is, of course, a really important kind of anchor in the neighborhood and facilitator of at least commercial success in the neighborhood, and something that's very important for Coolidge Corner's transportation network. Many people feel that the lots are successful today in terms of being a really good place to park, but have room for improvement in terms of some of the other things that they do or do not provide. And when we asked about the future of the lots, approximately a third of respondents were open to reducing parking in some way to accommodate other uses, and approximately 2/3 were cautious or opposed to reducing parking, and we'll get more into that in a few slides. So just our consultants pulled out a few kind of narrative responses, what's working well today in the lots and the walkways. A lot of people told us that they used the lots and the, I believe, 5 passageways around the east and west lots as cut-throughs. I know that I frequently do. And our consultants and their team who live around Coolidge Corner certainly do. People like that there's generally parking available. And, you know, in a lot that's 150 spaces and Century East, or I believe 148 maybe, even if it's 95% full, you're usually going to find like one space. So I think that's like a real draw for people. Yeah, I think people really appreciate this connectivity. They're very central spaces. And that's something that we're going to be thinking very carefully about over the coming months. In terms of what could be improved, people had a lot to say about this. I mean, these lots were built, I believe, in 1966 and have a lot of room for improvement, particularly around accessibility. There's not room to push even a stroller, much less a wheelchair, through the sidewalks on these lots. They're unclean. There are issues with rodents and litter. The traffic can be challenging. The flow is just, there are, you know, better, more modern designs for how parking lots are sort of configured. And currently the way that the stalls and everything work, there's a lot of kind of backup sometimes. Some people would like more parking in the area, more electric car spots. Again, there's so much, you know, we had hundreds of comments, so these are all available online. In terms of thinking about the future of the Center Street lots, I said we would come back to this. Only about half of people said that they were open to changing the lots in some way, but not at the expense of parking. So not changing or only keeping the same or increasing the level of parking in the area. 33% of respondents said that they were open to changing the lots in some way and would be okay with some parking going away to accommodate other uses. Others, you know, felt that the lots really should be renovated more fully or thought that they should not change at all. And we did follow up with the question, if the use of the lots were changed, what might be your top priority? Half of respondents said green space, open space, some sort of public plaza, which we know we've heard a lot about already. 22% of folks said that their top priority would be housing, which we've also heard a lot about, retail, and there were a ton of other really interesting answers to this question, which there's not possibly room on this slide or even several slides to capture, but are captured more fully online in the kind of consultant's debrief of all this. And just a few more narrative responses, that these lots are so essential, that, I'd be happy to see more open space and more greenery in this area, talking about a mixed-use development that could accommodate housing, retail, giving additional public space and preserving parking. And just someone saying that I can't believe I have so many thoughts about these lots, which I think I could agree. In terms of engagement, some of the events that we've held already as well as coming up, thank you to those of you who participated in a very kind of smaller informal business roundtable that we had as the very first kind of pre-engagement event to kick everything off. We had a coffee hour at the senior center that was very interesting and got some good feedback. And Meredith and I did some tabling at the Brookline Farmers Market. The first farmers market was this past Thursday. So that was really great to engage with some folks who were actively using the Center Street Lot West and telling them that there's a study going on, and getting some of their feedback and opinions. I just want to put on everyone's calendar that Jeff Speck will be giving a talk about how to make Coolidge Corner a better place and more walkable, and presenting hopefully some design concepts, I'll say, for a redesign of the Center Street lots potentially. That will be held in Movie House 1 of the Coolidge Corner Theater on September 10th at 7 p.m. So we hope you'll join us for that. The only other thing I want to announce is many of you may have noticed that in the Center Street East lot right now, a parklet has gone up. This is a sort of experimental place where we are hoping to welcome folks to reimagine how space might be used in Coolidge Corner. It's hard to look at this kind of sea of parking and imagine that it could be anything else. But when you kind of put something else there, even for a few weeks, it can kind of help open folks' minds to what could be possible. So for about 2.5 weeks in mid-June, if you look right now, there's a little parklet kind of across from the back of the Coolidge Corner Theater that occupies 4 parking spaces. We're going to be holding a few events in collaboration with a few businesses around Coolidge Corner, as well as holding a food drive supporting the Brookline Food Pantry, which a few folks have already told us. I guess food drives are often held, not during this season. So many folks have thanked me for and told me that they'll be coming out with some bags of food. So that's awesome. And we hope you'll come hang out in this parklet and tell us what you think of it. And I should have put up a QR code, but there is a little survey going on in the parklet that, and feel free to chime in, but the committee collaborated with our subconsultant Eisenberg Projects to kind of put on this parklet to develop a survey that is really meant for folks to use while they're in the parklet and in the Center Street lots, just to kind of capture some on-the-spot feedback. So that's going on right now as well. So yeah, that's the update that I have for you folks right now. I can throw in the chat the link to the fuller survey debrief that our consultants have prepared, as well as the town site, which has information about the study and the committee, which will actually be meeting on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. in the Denny Room, which is in the basement of the Public Health Building, located at 11 Pierce Street in Brookline. And with that, I thank you for your time and I welcome your questions. And Anne, please feel free to jump in with anything you might have missed.
Thank you, Zach.
Ailish, I have a question.
Sure.
So Zach, very good information. One thing that isn't mentioned anywhere is, were there many comments about the cost of parking at this point, what the meter rates are? Because we are, at the top of the house with regards to what we're charging per hour than a lot of other communities in the adjacent area. And we keep on hearing that we're low or we're equal to them. But if you go to Newton or you go to some other places, it's a lot cheaper to park there than it is here. And I'm just wondering if you've gotten any feedback on that.
I think there were a few comments. It's not something that we asked about specifically, I believe, in part because the Coolidge, this study really was building off of the Coolidge Corner parking study, which got into parking fees in some respect. But it is something that was mentioned that, one thing that would make these lots and make Coolidge Corner more accessible is having parking that is more affordable. And I think that's in part why the town is kind of having a fuller, at least internal conversation now based on this feedback we've gotten from the Coolidge Corner study about, well, maybe if folks are, parking for their first hour, that needs to be less expensive, allowing folks to, run some errands and really acting as more of a draw. And maybe if you want to park for more hours, then, much like in a private garage, it's, the fifth hour is more expensive than your first. So it's not, I can't say that parking rates is something that this study is contemplating specifically. It's something that I think will kind of be looped into a conversation around, more fully what are the lots going to look like into the future. And I think once the parking piece of that, is there going to be more parking? Is the parking going to be reconfigured? I think parking rates will be an interesting part of that discussion. But I will say also that, this study is really specific to the Center Street lots. I think that parking rates are part of, Coolidge Corner is really a parking ecosystem. And I don't know that the Center Street lots should have a parking rate that's, completely divested from the spaces that are on Center Street a few steps away. So it's something that we'll have to, think carefully about. But we did hear a little feedback about that to answer your question. And there certainly are some folks that have expressed to us that, the rates that are currently charged for parking are prohibitive.
Thank you very much, Zach.
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Zach? That was a lovely presentation, Zach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any comments or questions for Zach?
I do. I just have a quick thought.
Yeah.
The fact that you've elevated this to the to having an event at the Coolidge in September, I think is fabulous. I'm wondering if there could be a more inspirational or enticing title to the event. I know that, if there's anything that Brookline is, it's walkable, right? And so I think you're speaking to a crowd of people that already engage in the walkability of the town. And I think that I'm not suggesting that you talk about what should we do with the Center Street lot at all, but I would encourage you to brainstorm something that might get more people in that room that would be there to voice an opinion about what to do there. And then use that opportunity to do a survey of the people who are there, whether it's with the clickable things, or with the app, or whatever it might be, just to really engage them. But it's just a walkable city. I don't know. I feel like it's,
I don't know that that's I think that slide might have actually, I pulled that from a previous meeting. I don't know that that's actually the formal title of the talk. The kind of marketing and everything is still, we're close to done, but it's still being hammered out because this is still not.
You know, Deb, that's a good point.
But yeah, I completely agree that it could use some workshopping, and certainly if you, Deb, or if anyone else has a better idea for what we might be able to call this, I super welcome any ideas or feedback on that.
With the right title, you could probably fill that first floor, you know, like with
Yeah,
right, you could really get a good cross section of people who are showing up for something.
we are also brainstorming ways to kind of get live feedback, as you're suggesting. We don't know in terms of handing out a clicker or just like raising hands, what's going to
There's
be.
the app. There's an app that everybody's using.
Some people though have trouble with you know, apps and smartphones and that kind of thing, and we're trying to you know, engage people of all ages and abilities. So trying to think of something that's going to be you know, very inclusive. But maybe for folks that don't have this app, there's some sort of solution on paper. So we'll come up with something. David, do you have a question?
Yeah, working off of what that I think her idea is great, and something just came to mind. You should have your own table for Brookline Day in the vicinity of where the tables are set up, but coming off of the Center Street lot, and you could solicit an immense
Your feed is, we can barely hear you, David. There's Is that just me?
Brookline Day is
No,
probably one of
I heard the
the
first
most
part though about having a
Sorry.
table with Brookline.
populated events of the year where you're going to get a ton of people coming into Coolidge Corner. And I think that would be valuable feedback to be able to try to leverage. Just a suggestion, Zach.
Yeah, definitely, David. We are going to plan to have a table at Brookline Day. Absolutely. And thank you for that suggestion.
Zach, I'm just wondering what next steps are. I mean, obviously you have a meeting coming up in the Pierce Street building, but like what's going to happen with all of this information?
Yeah, so we've done the analysis of the survey. As I mentioned, there's a survey going out now as part of the tactical urbanism, and we're really curious to see how folks respond to this parklet and what kind of feedback they leave us about it. What's going to happen over the summer is that our consultants and you know, Spec Dempsey, working with some of their urban designers, they're going to be coming up with basically a few various design concepts for the Center Street lots in conjunction with the committee on Thursday at the committee meeting. Spec Dempsey hopefully will be presenting some precedent research, talking basically about very kind of broad strokes, what are some different options for the future of the Center Street lots in terms of, you know, making a parking garage, or I don't want to come to the committee meeting on Thursday. But then over the summer, kind of based on these conversations with the committee, based on precedent research, based on the survey results, the consultants will be coming up with a few design options, hopefully like 3 to 5 maybe different kind of concepts, which then in the summer, later in the summer and into the fall, we'll kind of be presenting to the committee and to the community, coming back to boards and committees like you folks, and working with local merchants, all sorts of different stakeholders to kind of refine some of these options and try to hone in on what's going to be, be the greatest benefit to the community into the future.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Anything else for Zach? Anyone? No? Okay, I think we can move on. Thank you, Zach. That was great. Thanks very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, Aaron, we can move on to all the great work that you and Jessica have been doing.
Okay, good morning, everyone, again. I'm going to get my screen shared and give a brief overview of this. Okay, can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So again, good morning. Recently, as you recall, at even our last meeting, we had the MBTA come and present on an upcoming transportation project that will be directly affecting some of our main commercial areas in town. And with that project happening soon, along with these parking studies and a lot of these other transportation projects that have direct effects on commercial areas in town, Jessica and I have gone through the task of compiling these all into one place with maps and graphs on the timelines to give everyone a better idea of what to expect coming up. Just like you, if you've been confused about which project goes where and what it affects what and what's related, we were trying to keep track just as much as you were and try to keep everything organized. So what we've done is we've compiled all of this together, and if you'll notice in the agenda packet, we have it broken down. You have this slide deck that we're presenting today. You have project summaries, just brief overviews of the project, but more importantly, the web pages, the websites at the top of the page where you can find more detailed information. And then Jess and I have compiled commercial area maps along with Gantt charts to show the timeline on these expected projects. And that's what I'll go over today as we go through each commercial area specifically. So we were able to give this presentation to the Economic Development Advisory Board at their past meeting or at their last meeting this past Monday. And they were very appreciative to see everything in one place. And they felt like this was such good information that we should also share it, not only with you, but with other parties as well. So I will preface all this with saying that we ran a lot of this past our transportation team internally to just make sure that we were on the right track with the timelines and everything. But again, we want to make sure that everybody is aware, because a lot of these projects have they're happening now, they will be happening soon, and all of them have direct effects on commercial areas in town. So, just like I mentioned, I'll give a brief overview of some of the different projects. You should have heard of most, if not all of these. And then we'll go into, excuse me, we'll go into each commercial area specifically and talk about the projects that affect that commercial area. So, some things just to, again, preface all of this. We have been stepping up our involvement with a lot of these transportation projects. As you can see here, and it's been mentioned to you in the past, we do now have biweekly economic development and transportation check-in meetings with staff. This helps us get a better idea of what's coming down the pipeline, as well as to share some of the concerns that you share with us to the transportation staff directly. So we are really appreciative that we've opened up that communication channel, and we feel like that's been a big step forward in making sure that we make all of you aware of what's coming down the pipeline as well. As you are aware as well, we now have EDAB and SBDC specific business seats on the design review committees that keep coming up with some of these different projects. So some of these projects require a design review committee to review the design, to get to certain stages where they have to apply for additional funding or for approval from the state. So we were very happy to make sure that we had accurate representation depending on which commercial areas were affected. As you know, and as we voted on at the beginning of this meeting, we've created the SBDC Parking Study Advisory Subcommittee for the upcoming Brookline Village and Washington Square parking studies. We're very hopeful that this will help us with the outreach and letting businesses know what's happening, getting better feedback, so that that can be incorporated into the parking study and recommendations that we expect to come from that. And obviously future collaboration with not only you, the businesses and the business community, but also translating that back to transportation staff and our bi-weekly meetings with them. This is the master chart. This is where you can find out the expected timelines of a lot of these upcoming projects. I'll be very brief here, but some things I do want to just point out if it's unclear. The parking studies are in blue. The implementation of the recommendations that come out of the parking studies, that's what you see in the pink, fuchsia, and then purple. That's very vague because it is very vague right now. A lot of that depends on transportation staff and them either being able to implement policy changes on their own or having to get transportation board or further approval. So it's kind of unclear right now when certain recommendations can be approved. And when those can be implemented, but we just wanted to try to give an idea of when that happens. Obviously, we have the parking study happening first. Out of that comes recommendations on implementation, and then these pinkish stages after that are the implementation stages. So what we get in recommendations, at least what we've received from the Coolidge Corner parking study, is a near-term, mid-term, and then long-term implementations that we can affect. Another thing that you might see as well in the design review, you'll see the stars. That's where we have checkpoints or the deadlines when they have 25 or 75% design review check-ins or approvals or a submission for approvals. So if you recall on the Washington Street Complete Streets project, we had a design review phase, and then most recently they approved to send that design to the MassDOT for 25% approval. So that was that star. The next one, as you can see on this graph, will be the 75% design review. And then shortly after, we're expecting construction to start. But also, as you see, that's in the future in 2028, maybe even further along. One project that I do want to point out on this map in particular is right now, there is a Beacon Street repaving project that is affecting the Beacon Street corridor west of Harvard Street. So as you all know, and some of you have been affected directly by, they are currently repaving. To my knowledge, they've milled the roads. Hopefully they will be paving soon. I'm not sure on the timeline exactly of when that will all occur, but I do know that their project right now affects everything west of Harvard Street down through Washington Square and on past. You will notice, though, that there is another Beacon Street repaving project that is planned for next year, and this is planned for east of Harvard Street. So everything from Coolidge Corner and St. Paul's east towards St. Mary's Street. So that is one project that we were just notified of recently that will be affecting businesses, especially in these Coolidge Corner and St. Mary's corridors, commercial areas. But we are expecting that to happen at the same time this is happening now next year. So in calendar year 2026. Also, with that being said, these quarters and these years are calendar years. We're using calendar years for this timeline. I'll go just briefly over some of these because I can get more in detail about it when we get into the commercial area, but we are all aware of Brookline Village and Washington Square parking studies. Zach gave us a great update, and he is working hard on the Center Street Lots exploratory study. Chestnut Hill traffic study will be happening soon. I think they just got the approvals not too long ago, and that is in direct relation to the Chestnut Hill commercial area study. The Coolidge Corner parking study finished up not too long ago, and the final report is now on the website and has been published. So we are already into some of the near-term implementations, and I can say confidently that our transportation staff is working on a lot of those near-term implementations currently. I can't give you a direct timeline on when those will all occur because, like I said, some of those might require further approval. However, they are working on some of these near-term implementations. I just mentioned the Beacon Street paving project that's going to be affecting everything east of Harvard Street. The Bridle Path project has gotten kicked off recently or will be getting kicked off pretty soon. That is just the design review phase. As you can see, and again, we ran all of these timelines past our transportation and engineering colleagues, but that design review will take a while before we ever even consider or get to the point of funding construction. So we are just in the design review phase, and you'll notice the star in the 2026, hopefully, where we can reach a 25% design that can be submitted. The MBTA Green Line C, that's what we had presented last week. That construction, again, is expected to start this fall. So that's why we have the construction in there. If we find out any additional information or when this all will occur, we will be sure to share it with you all. But that is coming up very soon. They've already secured funding. They're already I can't tell you exactly what design phase they're in right now, but they are still expecting to start this fall. And then, of course, the Washington Street Complete Streets project, we all know that the 25% deadline has already passed. They've already submitted all of that paperwork. So they will continue with the design review until they reach that next star that you see here, which is the 75% approval before, again, they can secure funding to begin construction. One thing that I wanted to point out, because I don't think it was emphasized enough, and there has been some conflicting reporting on this. When it comes to the MBTA Green Line C project, again, this was what the MBTA presented to us last month. I just wanted to point out a couple things that have direct impacts on the commercial area and that we feel like you should be aware. Not only will there be at least 0.3 acres of impervious area added or removed, however you want to call it, from these commercial areas, there will also be the removal of at least 32 trees of 14 or more inches diameter along the corridor. That's large, mature, old growth trees. And that's just those size trees. That's what I think has not been emphasized enough. The 32 trees that were mentioned was, I think, by some kind of law or standards is something that they had to mention which older growth trees were being removed. There's going to be other trees removed along the corridor. I can't give you an exact number on the trees yet because they're still, again, working on the design. But in making these stations accessible, they will be removing a lot of trees along this corridor. So we wanted to make sure that you were aware about that because that does affect the look of the corridor as it currently is. Another thing too, when the MBTA shared their presentation or shared this project at a public meeting back earlier this year, the information that was shared was that there'd be 60-something parking spaces removed. In the slide that was shared last month, if you counted up all of these parking spaces from each station that will be removed, there's actually a total of 90 to 100 parking spaces that will be removed along the Beacon Street corridor as it currently is. That's obviously more than 60. So we wanted to point out that in the most recent design renderings and the most recent reporting from the MBTA, there will be at least 90 to 100 parking spaces along the Beacon Street corridor that will be removed. So we wanted to make sure that you're aware. And again, that presentation last week, I shared the slide deck that MBTA shared with me. They break it out in each station and how many parking spaces will be removed. I even show where, but I'm not totally sure on that. I just know that they did share counts, and that's the most recent reporting that we've seen on that. So again, we're just trying to make sure that you have all of the information and the most up-to-date information that we've received, so that they're as they keep moving along with this project and as they get closer to the construction, that you all are aware of what's happening. The other big thing that I'm not sure if it was specifically mentioned last week, but that we've kept hearing is there is no plans of currently starting on one end and working their way down, whether it be east to west, west to east. It is our understanding that they will begin, when they begin construction, it will be at multiple stations at once. So everything, everywhere, all at once. So again, as we know more about the specifics on construction, we will be sure to share that with you. but this is our understanding of the project as it currently stands. As we get into these commercial areas, I think it's best, you've already seen the timeline. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the map. This gives you a better visual of what actually is happening and going on. So in Coolidge Corner, as you can see in the shaded orange area, that is what we consider our commercial area. And it's a little bit bigger than that, but we mainly covered the Beacon Street and Harvard Street intersection and corridors. The blue outlined squares are the Center Street lots projects that are currently happening. The purple arrow going to the east is the Beacon Street paving project that I mentioned earlier. The light blue dashed line is the Beacon Street bridle path project that will be happening soon, and the design review is currently happening. And the green is the MBTA Green Line C project. And I dotted the stations that will be directly impacted by this project. As you know, or as you might have heard, and as you can see here, Washington Square, Coolidge Corner, and St. Mary's stops will not be affected by this project. They are not planning on doing any construction at these 3 stops because these 3 stops are currently wheelchair accessible. This entire Green Line C project is to make all of the stations along Green Line, along the C line, wheelchair and more accessible. And so with Washington Square, Coolidge Corner, and St. Mary's currently being accessible already, there is no current plans of doing work at these 3 stations. So I've, like I said, added the dots on where we expect there to be work around the station. Another 2 things that we just wanted to, since we were doing this visual of the commercial area of 2 upcoming projects that will eventually affect the commercial area. The orange square you'll see is the Babcock Street lot. There is a planned affordable housing study that's planned for that lot. I don't know a timeline on that. I'm not sure if there's been even a timeline shared, but it is in the pipeline of something that we have on our calendars or something that we have on our to-do list. And that's internally with the planning department. So in the future, we will be having an affordable housing study for the Babcock Street lot. And then the red square is the Waldo Durgan site. As you all may be aware of, there is a commercial development plan for that. Again, we don't have a timeline on when that is expected to begin. We all know that demolition was done recently, but it's kind of in a stalwart right now. So if we were to hear anything different, we will be sure to share that because that does have big implications on the commercial area. But again, these maps are just supposed to give you an idea of all the different projects and how they're correlating on this side. Okay. Brookline Village. Again, I'm going to go straight to the map. The green area is what we consider Brookline Village. The purple is the Washington Street Complete Streets project. Like we just talked about at the beginning and multiple times now, the purple is the Washington Street Complete Streets corridor. And we are doing a parking study on this entire area and how the traffic can be impacted by projects such as this, and an overall inventory and evaluation of the parking system as it currently is in the Brookline Village commercial area. Moving on to Washington Square. Several different projects that's directly affecting Washington Square. Again, the purple is the Washington Street Complete Streets project. The green is the Green Line C, MBTA Green Line C branch station improvements project. And so you can see, again, I did not highlight Washington Square because it's our understanding there will not be any implications directly here, but I did mark Tappan Street because that will be directly affected by this project. That's still in the commercial area of Washington Square. The Beacon Street Bridle Path project is again in a light blue dashed line, as you can see here. So all of these 3 projects will have direct impacts on Washington Square. Moving on to St. Mary's. All 3 of the corridor projects have direct effects to St. Mary's to the town line on the east side. So again, Beacon Street paving project will affect the St. Mary's area next year. Starting this fall, the MBTA Green Line C branch station project will be affecting, it's not here right here, but there's Hall Street just on the other side, west of this map. And then the Beacon Street Bridle Path project will be going along the same corridor as well. Last but not least, I mentioned it earlier, something that Meredith has been working on is the Chestnut Hill Commercial Area Study, and they have recently approved a Chestnut Hill traffic study for this area. So that's why we just shaded this area to give you an idea of the Chestnut Hill commercial area along Route 9. So with all of that, I can take any questions, but for right now, the idea is to just give you an idea of all the different transportation projects that will be affecting the commercial areas, to give you briefings of all of the different projects and which commercial areas are affected directly. But you have the project summaries that we worked on. You have these graphs and these maps now. So any questions that you have, please let us know. We, again, are working hand in hand with transportation to make sure that you know about this. None of these projects, except the parking studies and the Center Street lot study, are our projects in particular, but we just want to make sure that you know about these as much as we know, as it currently stands. So with that, I will.
Overwhelmed. Aaron, I'm totally overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? Firstly, I don't think anyone has any idea of the impact on construction on business. So now you're talking about 3 projects in Washington Square, 3 projects in, I mean, it's going to be a disaster. So I don't understand how we are shifting so far away from people not understanding that people need to move around in cars still. So for example, Dean and Tappan, there's 34 parking spaces going away from Dean and Tappan for this MBTA upgrade. That's 34. That's the majority, like over a third of the parking spaces being lost on this project are in one area. So my question is, can we kick back? Can we complain how they could go from proposing 60 lost spots to now nearly 100 without some sort of community engagement? Like, how is that possible?
So some of these, like with the Washington Square parking study, we are hoping to get more of an inventory and an occupancy rate and those sort of data points to be able to provide to let us know, are these being used? If they go away, how much of an impact will that have? But to answer your question directly, the project that you're talking about that's going to be removing those parking spaces is the MBTA project.
Yeah.
It's our understanding that project is happening. It's moving forward. I shared in the project summary the email that they share with us for any comments, suggestions, ideas. I encourage you to do just like what they share with us and send that to them directly. Our transportation staff is just working on helping them with the design and mitigating some of those impacts. But if you have direct comments on that, I encourage you to email them. Otherwise, it's...
Well, getting back to that, then if transportation are working with them to mitigate the impacts, why aren't transportation working with business owners and residents on the areas directly? Why haven't they reached out and said, hey guys, we're trying to minimize the impact. What do you think? Just like the Center Street lot when they're trying to figure out a plan forward. Like, this seems to be just being rushed through. Now, I know it's difficult to work with the MBTA, don't get me wrong. I understand. Your hands are somewhat tied, but there really has been such little effort being made. Like, I don't think anyone understands the impact on Dean Road. Like, there's a lot of people that commute to work every day, or older people that use parking to get on the T there. Like, all that space will be gone for them. I mean, it's shocking. Sorry. The other thing.
No. I hear you.
It's a lot happening at once, and like the Bridle Path Design Review Committee, obviously I'm put myself forward to that because I was so frustrated with the Washington Square. That being said, it was majority rules in basically Design Review Committee approvals. So even though the business owners were objecting, they were basically annoyed or ignored. So is that going to be the same situation with the Bridle Path? Like, where your voice is heard? I know this, you don't know the answer to that, Aaron, but it's frustrating if that's the case.
Right. And I hear you. And again, that's why we wanted to make sure that this is part of the reasons why we shared all this information, is we want to make sure that you're aware that there's not just 1 or 2 projects that are implicated here. There's multiple projects that are happening. There's different timelines going on. Bridle Path is a really good example. We know it's going on. We know there's a design review. The actual construction, it might be 5, 6, 7 years down the road. But to your point, what gets approved and when, it's important to, now that you know about a lot of these projects, to share your comments and suggestions with the responsible parties. So I hear you, Ailish. I do. I hear you.
And also like the repaving project for Beacon, we're in week 7 now. They said it would take 8 weeks. I've reached out to transportation. Nothing has come back to me. I'm down 20% for 7 weeks in a row, and it's supposed to take 8. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's-
okay, it's ridiculous at this point. And you wonder why people get frustrated. It's like, well, no one will even answer or talk to us.
Yeah, no, that's definitely frustrating. And you have, by all means, a cause to be frustrated in that. On that specific project, the Beacon Street Parade, let me see what I can find out internally on that, because again, knowing that I'm not sure whose project that is, but the fact that our transportation hears more up-to-date information than we do. Let me see what I can find out, because to your point, it's gone on long enough without any kind of word on the status of it. So let me try to find out what I can, and I'll definitely share that with you,
Yeah.
Ailish.
It just speaks to the bigger problem of communication and transparency when we were facing all of these projects. This should be seen as an opportunity to get it right the first time, so that when we move forward through all these other projects, these issues don't happen. There's open lines of communication. There are point people. We have all timelines that are obviously are flexible, but that are fairly sound, and that we can all move forward so we can all operate. And I just think like we should use these as an example, as an experiment to how to fix the problems that we have. Anyway, thank you though. You did a great job, both you and Jessica. That's amazing. And I think really important information in there that we all need to share with as many people as possible, so we all know what's happening.
Can I
Any
ask a-
questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Karen, what's up?
Can I have well, the one thing is, thank you. Like, I looked at this before the meeting and was just, thank you for putting it all in one place, because it's always felt like separate little individual things, and I really appreciate that. And I completely agree with Ailish about the communication to businesses, because even though, it doesn't look like there's much going on in the village, like we have been under construction with utilities for, I don't know, since I've owned my business.
Yeah.
And people are, people are saying, that they can't even, they want to come to us, but they can't even get through the village. And so along with the planned projects that the town's involved with, there are unknown utility projects, whatever, that we have.
Oh no, you froze up, Karen. Real quick, what Karen's mentioning, and I think is also kind of touching on what Tracy just shared in the chat. We're not sure about the timelines at all about the utility projects when it comes to Eversource and the gas companies. Those are just kind of plopped on us just as soon as they're plopped on the businesses in that area. I see you back, Karen. You froze up there for a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I was just saying is, it's hard to share that information because we don't even know when it's happening, where it's happening at. We
Yeah.
find out sometimes in real time after it's already starting to impact the businesses. And I apologize for that, but I wanted to say that we don't know a lot of that beforehand.
I understand. I just want to say that in conjunction with all the planned things, we are also dealing with these things that we have no input or say into. So just feels like that needs to be taken into account in part of the whole
Definitely.
process.
They're often happening at really bad times. For example, the repaving of last summer of Beacon Street, where they repaved past Barcelona up to Cleveland Circle up that way.
Yeah.
They've just dug up that whole lane again for pipe work, even though that was just repaved last summer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so why was the money spent to repave it when now, and maybe the problem occurred after, I don't know, but they're upgrading pipe work. I'm like, really? After spending all that money to repave, now we're doing it?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It just seems to be all over the place. Nobody's talking to anybody. They're
Yeah.
just doing their thing. So, I mean, this is going to be massively impactful for everyone, not just business owners, but residents. People are going to avoid Brookline because of all these projects. Like that's just going to happen. So people need to be mindful when they're thinking about this, how can we mitigate the impact of this as much as possible? Because it's going to already, I've had so many people say, I'm not coming near Beacon Street with this paving project. It's a nightmare.
So Alice,
So
that brings me to my big ask, that we don't have to, it's not an action item or anything, but I think it should be mentioned in a deliverable from this meeting and this presentation is whenever we share information, especially about construction or known timelines and all, we thank you and we appreciate any kind of information that you can share to your colleagues, neighbors, other businesses that might be impacted in town, because it is difficult, to your point, about getting the word out, and making sure that everybody hears about it. We try as best we can. I promise you, at least we do in economic development. We try to make sure that the communication gets out there. But if anything is shared with you as an SBDC member, we really appreciate you turning around and forwarding that or sharing that with your colleagues, neighbors, other businesses in town. That just it helps tremendously get the word out. And again, on our side, we will do the best that we can, just like today. And when we hear about stuff, we will try to share that as soon as possible and with as much information as we can.
I'm wondering, Aaron, does anyone inform the residents of this project? Can this slide deck be sent to neighborhood?
It's actually
Neighborhood
interesting that
members?
you mentioned that. This same slide deck was, like I said, presented to the EDAB last week. And one of the town meeting members that's on EDAB has turned around and shared the slide deck with other town meeting members.
Okay.
So that's another thing too. We encourage you to, if town meeting members have this information. Also, the public meeting that MBTA that they mentioned and that I've mentioned earlier too, that they had earlier this year, directly talking about this project and its implications with parking, with trees and whatnot. That was shared with town meeting members earlier this year as well. So town meeting members do have access to this and they do have this information. So hopefully they are helping get the word out to their constituents.
Okay, thank you. Chris, have you come across it on your town meeting group or no?
I may have missed it, but I haven't seen it really on the listserv.
Okay. All right.
But Aaron, I was gonna just kind of maybe opine, but not really ask a question. What? So there's nothing we can really do about the MBTA projects. These are happening in September or this fall. Like, there's no, even if we send an email, like, there's no real feedback that can be taken into account at this point.
If you recall at the meeting, and I went back just to make sure that they did do some kind of ask. For example, Summit Avenue, that was the difference in 91 to 100 spots being removed. There's a Summit Avenue plan, and then there's an alternative design. They're still in the design phase and still making decisions on the different designs and what's impacted. As far as the project in general, yes, it's moving forward. As far as the implications and the different design alternatives, those are still being worked out. And so that's why I said, if you can, and if you're willing to, please share whatever comments, suggestions you have to that email address. But also too, like I just mentioned, your town meeting members should know about this project, and maybe they can vouch for you as well. But the project again in general is moving forward, but there's still design alternatives that are being worked out. So I don't know how much is actually could be implemented and whatnot, but that's what was shared with us on how to share any suggestions.
Okay, thank you. Wow, that's a lot coming up.
It is, and that's why I waited till the end.
I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
If anybody, as you're browsing through all of this information, again, I know it's a lot to digest. If you're browsing through this information, if you have any, just like what Chris was mentioning, any detailed questions though that maybe we could answer or at least guide you in the right direction, that's really what we're trying to do too, is be liaisons, be proper partners in all of this. Because again, for the most part, a lot of those projects, they're transportation based, they're transportation led, but we want to make sure that you know about them. So whatever we can do to get you answers, and get you the communication that you need to get those answers, we are here to help you. I don't want you to think that we're keeping anything from you, because that's the biggest thing that we are trying to do with this presentation.
Yes. Well, thank you for all your hard work. It was very well done. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else have any questions? No? Comments? Nope. Is there something in the chat, Aaron?
Let
no,
me see.
no.
No, I answered Tracy's
Okay.
question.
Perfect. Okay. All right, I guess we can move on to item 6 then, which is community member updates. Anyone have any? No? Okay.
Our annual meeting is Thursday. So if people are interested in attending, just email me and I can give you the details. But it should be a good event with a lunch provided, a tour of the United Parish, and then elections of board members and just some updates on the chamber.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. How was the event in Coolidge Corner this week? The Bar Lunette, wasn't that opening this
Oh,
week?
our ribbon cutting, yeah. Sorry, Bar Lunette opened about a month ago, but we had a ribbon cutting for them last Thursday,
Oh,
and
great.
it was awesome. It's such a great little space, and it's nice and cozy, and um, people are really enjoying it. Every time I try to go, it's packed. So
Great. I'll have to come check it out. Okay, have we any other business? Anyone?
Something that just popped up that I'll go on ahead and share again, because I want to be as open as possible. Brookline Day this year will be Sunday, September 14th. That's all I know, and it will be in Coolidge Corner. That's all I know for now. It's still being planned out, but they are working on the marketing and advertising materials to start getting out, and they're going to start meeting with Chris. I think you've got them lined up for the chamber meeting.
they'll be
But
there on Thursday to present about Brookline Day.
perfect. So again, all I know right now, Sunday, September 14th in Coolidge Corner, like the last few years, will be Brookline Day.
Okay, great. Okay, then, I think we are ready to adjourn the meeting, Aaron. I don't think we have any other business, do we?
None that I have. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I think we are good to go to conclude this meeting. Thank you for
Thanks,
all the
everyone.
information for everyone attending. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.